It was the most sickening and cruelest of crimes. What happened to Rachelle D'Argent is beyond comprehension. In November last year, her estranged partner kidnapped their 3-year-old daughter, Yazmina. For 4 hours, he tormented Rachelle with phone calls and texts. Then he did the unthinkable. Now, as Ramazan Acar begins a new life behind bars, Rachelle tells her harrowing story for the first time. Port Phillip Prison in Melbourne is a place full of evil. But among the 800 criminals who call it home, one stands out. 24-year-old Ramazan Acar is as cruel and violent a piece of work as there is. Victoria got rid of the death penalty in 1975. But when you hear what Acar did to his own 3-year-old daughter as a way of wreaking revenge on his ex-fiancée, you may well be wishing it was never abolished.
He makes me sick to my stomach, and I hate him. I hate him, and I will never, ever forgive him. Ever. Ever, ever, ever.
Like most toddlers, Yazmina D'Argent didn't have a care in the world.
I think her eyes were the best thing. She just had to look at me and it made everything all better.
Yeah.
Mum Rachelle says her Mimi was a cheeky show-off who loved to dance and sing. But late last year, Yazmina was brutally murdered by her own father.
This was one of my favourite songs with Mim.
Now, a crackly recording on an iPhone is the only way Rachelle can hear her daughter's voice.
You make me happy, 'cause I look great. And when we told you, Mr. Salary, oh please, don't take your junk away.
Rachelle met Ramazan Acar when they were both just 15. They began a relationship a few months later, but almost from the start, he was obsessive, possessive, and violent.
The first 8 months was okay, and that's when things got bad after that.
And what sort of form did that violence take?
We were out one time, and he seemed to have a problem with me for something or other, and he hit me pretty much like a man, and I fell straight to the floor, and he spat on my face.
So his temper just all of a sudden?
Yeah, just came out, and he showed me the real him. In his exact words, he said, "This is the real me. Now you know who the man is."
Violence became the daily norm in the relationship. And the more Acar battered Rachelle, the less she could do about it.
Why did you stay with him?
I thought he would change.
I'll be different next time.
I'll get help. I'll change. I won't do it. Forgive me. This is not me. I only do it because I love you.
But every time he hits you, you must have got the idea then.
I didn't. I didn't.
You must look back now and think, I was stupid.
Definitely. Young, dumb, and stupid.
Yazmina!
In early 2007, Rachelle fell pregnant. Yazmina was born in November. Rachelle persevered in the relationship. She even agreed to marry Acar. But not even that stopped him hitting her. Finally, in May of last year, Rachelle couldn't take the pain any longer. She ended the relationship, but Acar wouldn't take no for an answer, kept on harassing her. So in September, she went to court to make him stay away. But he breached that order too, a staggering 27 times in 3 months.
I wanted a better life for me and my daughter, and I put my foot down. Every time he tried to contact me, he messaged me, he turned up at my house, I always went to the police. I did the right thing.
And the police didn't act once?
They pulled him into the police station, or, you know, they went and got him or something. They interviewed him, and then that was it.
Like the police, Rachelle was powerless to keep him away. Acar's 28th breach was inevitable.
You knew what he was capable of with his fists.
Yep.
And yet you left your daughter in his care. Help me to understand that.
He was never like that towards his daughter. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. He held her in the air like a jewel. And what could I do at the end of the day? That's her dad. As much as I hate to say it, I hate it. But it was her father.
It was Wednesday, November 17 last year, just after 6 p.m. Rachelle and Yazmina arrive home to find Ramazan Acar waiting for them in that driveway. Doesn't seem to matter to him that he's breaching a court order to stay away. He does that whenever he likes. But little Yazmina was absolutely thrilled to see her dad. And playing on that affection, Acar seized his chance.
I'll never forget that face. That she was so happy to see him. She was so happy. And, yeah.
Even though Acar was breaking the law by being there, Rachelle once again fell for his promises.
Bye, Mommy.
This time that he was just taking Yazmina to buy a chocolate.
You watched them go?
I watched them go.
And you thought...
Watched him turn the corner, and he was going in the direction of the milk bar.
And you thought he'd be back in 10 minutes?
Not even.
So how long was he gone before you thought, this is not quite right?
10 minutes.
Where are you? You're supposed to be back by now.
At first, there were excuses. Rachelle thought Acar was just being a pest. But she called the police anyway. They told her to keep talking to him.
How does it feel not to have your child when I didn't have mine for 3 months?
Just bring her back. Please.
As late afternoon turned to night, Acar's mood also darkened. And an hour after he'd taken Yazmina, this ominous conversation.
Payback's a bitch. How does it feel?
Please. Please, Ramsey, bring her back. Just bring my daughter back.
Guess what, baby? You're not getting her back!
You were getting desperate by this time?
Yeah. And I said, you know, look, just bring her back. We'll work things out, whatever, you know, whatever you want. I'm ready to do it, okay, blah, blah, blah. And he told me, it's too late now. It's too late.
Rachelle didn't know it at the time, but Acar was enjoying his cruel game so much, he wanted everyone to know. Through his mobile phone, he updated his Facebook page with the brutal warning, "About to kill my kid." And a few minutes later, his simple reason, payback.
So he was posting those messages for his friends to see?
For attention. He was nothing but an attention seeker. He's always been like that.
The whole thing appears to be almost a staged set of events that he set out to do. Is that the way you see it?
Yep. Yep. I do.
So he had this sick plan to make you suffer?
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself in Rachelle's place. What she was already going through must have been the most terrible torture imaginable for a mother. But it got even worse. 2 hours after Yazmina was taken, there was another harrowing phone call.
Bring her back.
It's too late. I'm gonna do it.
He told her, he said, tell Mum you love her. And she said, "I love you, Mummy."
Did you get a chance to say anything to her?
I told her I loved her too.
And that was it?
Mm-hmm.
And then he hung up?
Yeah.
Did you think then, Rachelle, that he was going to go through with it?
A part of me did, and a part of me didn't. I thought he was just doing it to stir me around. Stir me up, you know. He liked to do that a lot.
At 8:47, about 10 minutes later, he's on the phone again. He says, "I've killed her."
Yeah.
She's just lying there next to me. Doesn't matter anymore.
Please!
I killed her, man! I killed her! I killed her because of you!
Oh!
I don't care, even if I go behind bars. I know that you're suffering.
I still remember everything that he said, everything, to every detail that he told me. You know, and I didn't believe it. I didn't. Because she's in heaven now. You know? And I just that's all I kept saying all night was just bring her back. Just bring her back.
But he didn't bring her back. He stabbed Yazmina to death, dumped her body, and tried to cover up his crime. 7 long hours after Rachelle waved Yazmina goodbye, the police delivered the worst news.
Then they said, "We've arrested him." And I said, where's Mimi? The longest pause I've ever heard in my life. And he said, "We found her. She's dead. We found her in a park." I couldn't hear. I couldn't see. I couldn't breathe. And I just screamed. And that's all I could do.
What's staggering about Acar is he is still not remorseful about killing his own child. How do we explain that?
There's a generous explanation and a less generous. The generous explanation is that you've done something so terrible that you can't even really look at it clearly. You could never even begin to think about, what have I done?
What's the less generous?
The less generous is that this person had so little concern for other human beings, even their own children, that they were capable of doing this.
Does that make him evil?
Makes him brutal and dangerous.
Forensic psychiatrist Paul Mullen says what Ramazan Acar did is still a relatively rare crime. But Acar now joins a list of infamous fathers who've killed their kids as a way of getting back at their ex-partners. Men like Arthur Freeman, who threw his daughter Darcy off Melbourne's Westgate Bridge. And Robert Farquharson, who drove his 3 sons into a dam and left them to drown.
Do they see it as an act of revenge?
I think some of them do, yes. And they're justified, you know, as if this was the right thing to do.
How can it be an act of revenge if that child is a part of them too?
Oh, I think the difficulty, of course, is that the children become less important than the battle and struggle for custody or control with the partner.
So the victory is everything?
Absolutely.
And damn the child in the process?
I think they just lose sight of the child as anything other than the prize in some kind of ongoing battle with an ex-partner.
Rachelle will never be able to make sense of what Acar did to Yazmina.
I brought you a mirror. Still your shiny one. That's a new one.
But finally, last Friday, 7 months on from the murder, a resolution of sorts. Acar was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. And there's no chance of parole before 2044.
I want him to suffer every day in there. I hope there's a reminder every day, every day. I hope Yazmina haunts him every night. Every night. I do.
Does a part of you still wish there was a death penalty?
Yes. Yes, a big part of me. I do.
I know this seems like a screamingly obvious question, but why do you think he did it?
There was only one thing left that could hurt me, and that was him taking her away from me. Not for an hour, not for a day, but forever.
You must rue the day that you ever met him.
I do, sometimes, but then at the same time I think, you know, I wouldn't have had Mim, just my life, my sister, my friend, my everything.
Coming up,
she gave me a whole new purpose, to be a dad.
Australian parents caught up.
How that is in the best interest of children, I'm not too sure.
In a Japanese nightmare.
Such a irrational rule.
Will they ever be allowed?
The worst experience of my life.
To see their kids again.
It's extremely frustrating.
That's next on 60 Minutes.